Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 155, and I'm delighted to welcome onto the podcast Owen Jackson. Owen's the head of physical performance at Wrexham. Owen, how are we doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thanks for getting me on. I'm looking forward to it.
No, it's great to get you on, mate. Obviously, we've caught up very briefly at Rotherham when you came to the meeting, but it'd be great to have a chat in a bit more detail. I know we've got some good stuff to cover, but I've just mentioned your role there. So head of physical performance at Wrexham, which we'll get into in a little bit. But do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown on your career so far?
Yeah. So did both my degrees, my undergraduate and my master's at Chester. I was originally going to go into biomechanics, but then I realised how much maths and physics and all that was involved. So I was stayed clear away from that. I was considering to do physiotherapy as well. I really didn't know. I know I wanted to work in football, but I just didn't really know what jobs there were out there. Anyway, I got talking to one of my lecturers, and I went down the sports performance science route. And then, I've heard so many people on your podcast before say they sent out all these emails and letters to different practitioners trying to get a bit of intern work, and I did the same. I must have sent within like 100-mile radius of where I live in the northwest. I think I sent out like 40 or 50 different clubs, just firing out emails, letters, ringing up receptions, trying to get put onto different things. And I think only Stockport and Altrincham replied to me. So Nick Donnelly and Ryan Murray, the sports science guys there. And I was just going in every day, just interning. Like on the second day at Stockport, I've been there the first day, just shadowing, like my first ever experience ever being in like a football environment. And the second day, Nick said, "I want you to take the whole warm up with the first team." I just like crap my pants a bit. I ran to the toilet and I was looking at my phone, just like how to do a warm up. Like I've done it for uni, and I've done it all before. Like I was just googling things. Like my head fell off a little bit, but it was fine. You know, I got thrown into the deep end, and I did all right. And then I worked at St Helens as well in rugby league as like an intern. And then I went to Salford City as interning, but it was basically like the lead academy sports science, but basically as an intern. That was good. I was there for quite a few months, and then like you said, then I just joined Wrexham. I joined in March. It was like my first sort of full-time role after being at uni.
And you've pretty much, these last few couple of years have probably been absolutely mental, and not necessarily giving you a true insight into football really as well, with everything to do with COVID and everything you've had to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned about working at Saints and Stockport, because I was thinking that you only went to clubs with like multi-million pounds owners. With obviously the stuff at Wrexham and with Salford as well. But no, I think it's what you just mentioned before, getting thrown into the deep end. I don't know what you think on that, but do you think that has to happen for certain coaches? Because I know it's one of those times in your career at that very point where you probably panicked and, like you say, you sort of not comfortable, but you develop a lot by doing stuff like that, don't you?
Yeah, it's definitely that sink or swim. It's happened like a few times, and I think that's one of the things that I've definitely learned over the last few years, just adapting to different situations and, you know, reflecting and self-reflecting. Like you say at Stockport, I don't think like you asked the question, is it something coaches have to do? I don't think they have to do it, but I think it would definitely help. And it's not something you can it's something that has to come naturally. You can't really manufacture that situation, you know what I mean? You just get thrown in the deep end. And like you say, at Stockport, it definitely happened. And then even at like Salford, when I thought I was going in as an intern, you know, just to shadow the first team, and they were kind of like, okay, you're going to be the lead academy sports scientist for this season. And like the first day I came in, and I was like full pre-season to plan, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, to be honest. But we sort of rode the wave for a few weeks, and then adapted, and then it was all fine after that. But yeah, it definitely benefited me.
Yeah, and that move to rugby as well is an interesting one, because I know, how long were you at Saints for?
I joined in January, and then COVID kind of hit April time, didn't it? So I was there for about 3 and a bit months, and then COVID hit, and we didn't really go in there.
And what about in terms of lessons that you took from rugby? Because I know you told some great stories as well at the meeting.
Oh yeah,
getting a bit of exposure to a very different sport. But there's lessons from that, isn't there, to be learnt from different sports as well?
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely something I'd encourage anyone in my situation back then to do, or even now, just go and even just go for an open day, message someone in rugby, like anyone or whatever sport it might be, and just go and experience their gym for a day or their pitch sessions for a day, and you'll learn so much. Because like I was saying, what you referred to then at Rotherham, before I went to rugby league, I didn't even know, how many players were on a team. I couldn't throw the ball. The lads were taking the mick because they could spin the ball, and I was just like doing the warm-ups before a game and throwing in the ball, and having to like catch it. And, but honestly, I learned so much, like, because even like the 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds at Saints, who I was primarily working with, their focus in the gym is like nothing I've ever seen before compared to football. Like, they're bang on it every day, and they get in and they get all the work done. They do extras, they do even more extras, and then they leave, and they're so disciplined, like so disciplined, and it's something I hadn't experienced before. And the guys down at Saints, Adam and Matt Daniels, the two brothers, them two were brilliant to me. Adam kind of took me under his wing, and would just like every day he'd just teach me like a new lesson, and he bollocked me sometimes and needed to be bollocked, but like he was he was really good to me, and I learned loads forward and things I've like put into place, down the line.
And with those lessons, working with rugby players and seeing their approach to the gym, because we know it's different, and we know the sort of demands of the game are very different as well. But there's definitely lessons in terms of like culture and how players approach things, isn't there? So what was in your mind when going back into football? Like, was there anything that you thought in terms of specifics, like, right, I can take this and try and apply it in football? My approach is going to be this because I've learned this from being at Saints. And I know you weren't there too long.
Yeah. I wasn't there too long, and it was different because, I mean, when I went to Salford, there was the same sort of age, but it's different because, I mean, we spoke about before, going from that 14, 15, 16-year-olds to the adults, obviously there's going to be different there. But main thing was just the discipline, really, because at Saints with the 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they were just so disciplined, and they wouldn't even think about messing about in the gym. Like, that was their sacred time, and a lot of them loved it. Like, they looked forward, like they'd be on the pitch and they said, "Oh, we're in the gym now." Sorry, one sec. I think my headsets have just stopped working. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you.
Oh, sounds good. Carry on. A lot of them were looking forward to the gym. So they'd finish the pitch session, and then they'd be like, "Oh, we're in the gym now. I can't wait to go to the gym." And they'd like literally jog out to the gym, get in, and they loved it. Whereas in football, it was the opposite. Sometimes they'd be like, "Oh, we got the gym. Oh, we got the gym this afternoon. Oh, I got the gym." So it was just trying to change that culture, really, and just try and make it a bit fun. A bit of competition. They did that a lot in rugby, which I didn't really see a lot of in football. I see some of it in football, don't get me wrong, but like big TV up in the middle of the screen because they have the gym aware, the velocity-based training stuff. Yeah. So, just getting a big screen of that, making it a bit fun. Yeah, just the discipline, really. That was a big thing I tried to introduce, since I've gone down.
It was one of the small insights. I don't know if you saw it from the Euros with England. I know Ben Rosenblatt was doing some of the competitive work in the gym. And you do see that shift, don't you? Because working with competitive athletes, like, they want to be competitive no matter what they're doing, whether they're playing FIFA or whether they're out on the pitch or whatever. They want to be competitive, don't they? So it's pulling from that, isn't it, a bit, and setting up things that is going to get that spark going.
Yeah, I saw that with Ben. He did we were doing the squat jumps.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah, it was good.
So it's just taking and applying things like that, isn't it? And having to think about how you can adapt that into the program. But it's really interesting that. I was going to ask as well, because, Owen, I know you're only 23, so very early on in your career. And obviously being at Wrexham, plenty of time ahead in your career as well. But I think it's really good to reach out to coaches at different ages, at different experience levels, to get advice. So coaches that are listening might be you maybe 2 years ago. And I just thought it'd be good. I know you touched on a little bit already, to get a bit of advice on getting your foot in the door, and then also looking for that first opportunity and taking the advantage of that first opportunity as well. Yeah,
I may only be 23, but as I get reminded every day, I probably look about 35. So I'll get better for that, the training. But I mean, if you rewind to me 2 years ago, I mean, it's been mentioned so many times, but just, with emailing out, messaging every sort of like practitioner, and not just in football as well. Like I said before, try rugby, hockey, basketball, everything. Just get that experience of just coaching, that one-on-one coaching. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It's still an athlete in front of you, regardless of the sport. So I definitely recommend doing that. one thing I'd recommend is to be proactive, because that's one of the things I wasn't at Saints at the start. So the first 2 weeks at Saints, I'd go in and I'd go and sit in the office, and then when the gym session was ready, I'd go to the gym, I'd do the session or like supervise or assist the session, and then I'd go back to the office and I'd just kind of sit there. And then Adam, the head of Academy SSC, bollocked me a bit. He was like, "Oh, and you're not being proactive. You just sat there like on your phone in the office." And I was like, "I'm not. I've done the gym session. What do you mean?" Like then I realised, shit, how most this look to someone else. But it was just like constantly just being around the lads. If you've got your foot in the door in an internship, don't just sit there in the office like doing nothing. Go out and just speak to the lads, get your confidence up, just have a bit of banter with them, whatever it might be. But yeah, it can be tough when you're in an internship, because I experienced it at Salford. You're not getting paid, and you happen to come in and you're doing a hell of a lot of hours for free. And there were some points definitely where I thought, and other people will have thought, can I be asked doing this? Getting up at 7:30, driving an hour and a half, leaving at like 5 some days, and I'm not getting paid for any of it, not even getting expenses sometimes. But you've just got to just dig deep and just think it is worth it. And like, I'm almost proof that it is worth it, because if I was at Salford and you would have said to me, "Oh, fast forward 6 months and you're going to be working full time at like a decent club," I wouldn't have thought that at all.
Yeah,
you just got to just dig deep and just think like, come on, you can just get through this next little bit, and then keep challenging yourself every day as well. That's one thing I'd say. I mean, it was easy for at least 2 or 3 weeks. I just like at Salford, I just didn't do anything. So I just get there, do the warm up, just stand at the side of the session, go home, get up, do the warm up, and I wasn't really challenging myself. I was just sort of just riding the wave, just plateauing a bit, not really doing anything, not challenging myself. And I was like, right, come on, like give myself a kick up the arse and started doing things to challenge myself, make myself better. You know what I mean? Just that's one thing I'd recommend.
It's being a sponge in that environment, isn't it? Like when you're at clubs like that, you've got a lot of practitioners around that you can learn a hell of a lot from, and probably a lot of experience there as well. But also, and I know it's something you probably touched on a little bit, you've got a lot of players around you as well, which again, you're going to learn loads from. And I know your move from, correct me if I'm wrong, but your move to Wrexham came off the back of knowing people and creating a network, and that probably wouldn't have happened if you weren't proactive and put yourself out there.
Yeah, bang on. That's exactly how it went on. And that thing about the players as well, like that's one of the main things since I've joined Wrexham, and I'm working with players who've been playing in non-league for like 10, 15 years, and I'm coming in asking them to do different things that they might not be used to, and they're challenging me saying, "I'm not doing that, Owen," or why are we doing that, Owen? And like, talk me through this. And at first I was like, Jesus, like, because when you're working with under 18s and like in the academy, they just kind of don't ask any questions. You know what I mean? They just do it. They just get on with it. Some of them do, but since joining Wrexham, like the amount of people who've just questioned me, and in a good way, not being arsy about it, just asking why are we doing this? Like, why am I doing that? I want to do that, and it's just like, wow, like it makes you think about what you're doing a bit more. So you don't just plan things for the sake of planning things. You know what I mean? You've got a reason for everything. And it's something Jack Inman touched on, remember, at the Rotherham thing, and he said he always gives a little reason. So if you're doing a gym program, he'll put like an exercise and say what it helps, sort of things, and the players
links it to the pitch,
linking it to the football side of it, which always helps. And I started doing that as well since Jack mentioned it, so that's helped. But yeah, I think getting challenged off the players is something that's helped me definitely.
It improves your lows, that, doesn't it? Because if you can answer the why, we should always be able to answer the why. That's one point, isn't it? That if we can't, we probably do need to question why we put something in play. We should always be planning things with someone questioning us in mind, whether it is a player or a coach or maybe someone higher up or a physio or whoever. Like, you should probably always have in mind that someone is going to question what you're doing, and you should be able to give an answer. And like you said before, it's not a case of someone being arsey and just picking on you for the sake of it. There might be a case of that a few times, but majority of the time it's not going to be that, is it? It's going to be that it's genuine, and that, I think, that does improve you as a practitioner, doesn't it?
Yeah, these are just players, like I say, they know their body. They've spent 15 years getting to where they want to be, and they want to know. Yeah, they want to know genuinely, why are you getting me to do this? They want to know. Some of them might want to go in a career. Because I've had a few lads who get really into the GPS stuff, and like some players will sit next to me like, talk me through this, and they really just want to know things. Like, really interested about it.
Well, the other thing is that the game's come on a lot, hasn't it? So when you are talking about players that have played for 10, 15 years, if you go back to those times, GPS and things like that, and the S&C side of things, it wasn't treated the same, was it? So they are going to be learning from you, but at the same time, you can learn a hell of a lot from them because they've had the long career.
Yeah.
So no, it's a really important thing, that. And I think, what are some of the other things you've learned? Because obviously being around the academy ages at Salford, being around first team at Stockport, and now first team at Wrexham, what are some of the other differences between academy ages and first team? Is there anything that sort of stands out for you apart from like that approach and the attitude towards the gym and strength work?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things, obviously, it's kind of obvious at academy level. You know, it's all about like improving. And if you lose a game, obviously you want to win every game, but if you lose a game at academy level, it's not the end of the world. You know, it's kind of a good thing really, because you can look at mistakes and build from mistakes. But losing a game at first team level, like that's like, you know, the whole changing room's just down, and it will just kind of adapt into that a bit. You know, because I've been used to, say, when I was at Salford, we lost a game on a Saturday, you can still sort of like, you're in on the Monday and you're just cracking the same sort of jokes and you're having a laugh and you're doing the same sort of, you know, the same sort of banter. But and then if you lose a game on a Saturday now and you're getting on a Monday, and you can say if you've lost 3 games in a row, for example, like the mood really changes, and it's about kind of realizing, you know, you said like being a sponge and just kind of, you know, just realizing what the situation is, adapting to the situation, being a bit wary of how things are. That's one of the main things since moving from academy to first team. I can't think of anything else apart from the obvious, like people will challenge you more because these are people who've been in non-league for 15 years. They know their bodies and they want to know why we're doing things.
I think that's a great point you made then, though, around results, because it is important, isn't it? And I remember speaking to Matt Walker a while back, and he was talking about the impact of results and like poor form and things like that. And it's an important role then that falls on your shoulders, isn't it? Because you might be first exposure to the players on a Monday morning if you're taking the warm-up or whatever, and you might get a group of players that are coming in demoralized. They might have lost the game they were meant to win. So I'm guessing there's a lot that falls on you in terms of setting the tone of the week, and that's when you sort of flip to like motivator role, isn't it? That you've got to pick players up. And
just the other day, it just reminded me then, just Tuesday, we played Grimsby away. Not a very nice place. Not if anyone's from Grimsby, I'm sorry, but it's just not. I don't want to go back to Grimsby. But there was 2 lads who weren't in the matchday squad, and they haven't been in the matchday squad for a few weeks. And you know, just coming to them and was stupid of me. I walked up to them, "You all right, lads?" And they were like, "No, I'm not all right." And I was like, "Shit, I'm just not thinking. Like, why did I say you all right?" Like, I'm just trying to make conversation. And it's just that sort of thing, because under 18 level, I mean, all the lads want to play, and all the times all the lads do play. It's rare that a lad isn't in a squad for a serious amount of time, and if not, they're playing for the under 17s or they're playing friendlies every other day. But there's some lads who don't, in first team, who don't play for like weeks and weeks on end, and it's just kind of, you know, responding to them and reacting to them and being able to, like say, motivate them and try and diffuse some situations sometimes, because trying to get lads to do runs before a game if they're not in the squad, like it can be like one of the hardest things to do. Never mind all the sciencey side of it, trying to work out all these periodization models and all these programs, but just trying to get a lad to do some runs who isn't in the matchday squad. That's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do since working it.
Yeah, and that's a really important point, isn't it? Because you're dealing with a person, then all the technical stuff goes out the window, really, doesn't it? And I suppose sometimes you've got to pick your battles in that circumstance as well. Different. So sometimes it's just not going to happen, is it?
No, yeah. So many times when I can just tell by just seeing the faces of like some of the players. I can just go up to him like, "Are you all right, mate?" And he'll just go, "No, I'm not all right," and he'll just walk off. And I'll just think, is it even worth trying to get anything out of him today? Like, obviously I'm going to get something, but yeah, you say there's other lads who bang into it and they want to get it done and they'll do loads. There's other lads who just, like, am I going to try and do 12 box to boxes with him or 2 6 6, whatever it might be, when he's just jogging and like his head's rolling and he can't even be asked. Like, is it even worth it? I might as well go sack it off and do it tomorrow when he's in a bit of a better mood.
Yeah. And that's real life, isn't it? That's going to happen, and that's going to happen no matter where you are. You're going to have players that are out of the squad. You're going to have disappointed players and players not in a psychologically motivated state. So it's a really important point, that, because that you're going to deal with it. And Patrick Holmes spoke about a match day, and that's why I sort of spoke to him around the match day, because I think those conversations, like you've pointed out then, with players is really important, because the way we speak to them, the language we use is really key, isn't it? To put them in the right mindset, whether it's before a game, whether it's after a game, whenever.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, so no, that's a great point. And then what about in terms of, is there any other lessons from dealing with players? Because I've mentioned your age, 23 years old, working at Wrexham, at a club that's got this financial backing, that are obviously trying to push up the leagues, working with players that are probably 30 plus or however old they are. Any other lessons from working with those players, apart from the fact that of that experience? Like, is there anything else that you've sort of took from those players?
Just being able to recognise when I'm wrong, really. I've made tons and tons of mistakes in my very short career, tons of mistakes, like loads, and I'm able to learn from every single one of them. And I think it's important that you do that. I think I've been wrong so many times, and our captain from last year, for example, would challenge me and say, "Look, can you not do that another way?" And I'm kind of like, "Yeah, I can do that another way. You're right. You've got more experience than me, even though I've got a degree, but you've got 10 years experience playing in football. So you know more than me in this situation. So yeah, I can change that, and I will change that." I think it would be easy for me to say, no, we're doing it this way. It's my way or no way. But I think being able to recognise when you're wrong, not being stubborn, not having too much pride, and just saying, actually, yeah, to be fair, you're right. We'll change that. Not sort of. It's different to just rolling over and let the players have their own way. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of being able to recognise when you're wrong and sort of saying, yeah, we'll adapt that a little bit, because what you're saying is right.
There's quite a fine line between that, though, isn't there? Because you're right. Like, we can learn a hell of a lot from working with them, but at the same time, if it's your session, you're trying to take charge of that, aren't you? You don't want them to dictate everything.
Yeah.
I think you're very young, mate, as well, to be realizing that, because a lot of people I speak to in their careers have all gone through the whole trying to take too much control, not necessarily listening to players and things like that, and being 23 and being very aware of making mistakes, asking questions, being adaptable, not being too rigid in approach. You're very young to be doing that, so it's great to hear.
Yeah, I think I had to, because when I joined Wrexham, it was 2/3 of the way through the season last year in March. I think we'd won like 4 in the bounds before I joined. Before I joined, we'd won the last 4. And I came in, and all the lads were having like bantering, saying, "Oh, you can't change anything now. The lads are on fire. You can't change anything," and just like winding me up. And they had a point, to be fair. Like, I didn't want to come in and start saying, "Right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that." I think we were about 5th in the league when I joined. And if I started changing things, asking the lads to do this or do that, and I kind of just have to ride the wave to the end of the season a bit, and then hope that I'd be kept on, because it was just like a provisional, like what you call it now, provisional just to the end of the season. And then obviously I did get kept on. I started like implementing a few little things now that I wanted to do in pre-season, and started changing a few little bits, and my sort of non-negotiables sort of thing. But yeah, definitely going into the season, last season, I had to be careful. I didn't want to upset the apple cart too much, but there were some things that I thought needed changing. So I kind of, the way I went about it was a bit different. Like, I didn't, like a bull in a china shop, running in like, "No, we're doing this, doing that." Kind of be a bit subtle with it.
Yeah, another great point. Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, something that people have spoke about a lot on the podcast is that observing, and especially when teams are in that position where they're doing well, if you suddenly do start to change a lot of stuff, you could potentially be at blame, couldn't you, if results don't start going the same way. The other thing, Owen, is, and it's amazing actually, some of the podcasts I've had recently with coaches working in non-league, or people that have come on and spoke about their non-league experiences, they've got such a great reception, because I think it's really relatable to a lot of people out there. But in terms of the benefits of working at that level, What would you say is some of the, if you've got to do a sales pitch for working in non-league, what would you say some of the key factors are that has sort of attracted you to that level?
Yeah, I mean, the lads that you're working with day in, day out, they are just really down to earth lads. You know, they're not paid tons of money. You know, they're doing it for the right reasons. Like some player, we had a lad last season, and you know, he was working at B&Q whilst part-time B&Q whilst training as well. So he trained like 10 till 1, whatever it might be, go to B&Q. So they're doing it for the right reasons. And another one as well, which I spoke with, you know, Rob Williams, who's at Salford.
Yeah.
It's one thing that he mentioned to me when I left Salford. And he was saying to me, like, Owen, it's such a good opportunity, because it was the same when he joined Salford, when they were in like the Evo 6 Prem, whatever it might be. You know, you've got a blank canvas, a complete blank canvas to do whatever you want with. It's not like if you joined a team in the Championship, say, where you may be like fourth down the pecking order, and you can only change the warm-up, for example, and maybe not even that. You can only change like a pre-ab session. That's all you have control of. Whereas this, you have control over everything.
Yeah.
So you have such a blank canvas, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because you can do a few things wrong. But it's a good thing as well, because like, you know, you can do whatever you want. Like you can plan the gym programs however you want. You can plan what the lads are eating. You can plan the warm-ups. You can do, you know, anything. And pre-season was brilliant this season, because the new gaffer came in, and he was like, Owen, I want you to take control of the first 2 weeks pre-season. Them 2 weeks just yours completely. And I was like, wow, that's like, you wouldn't really get that anywhere else, especially at my age. So that was one of the big things for me that I thought was brilliant about working in non-league, just that scope to improve everything. Like I joined the complete blank canvas. There's no real programs, nothing in place. So you've got so much. It's so great to improve as a coach, because you've got so many little projects going on.
I know I joked at the start about you only going to clubs with multi-million-pound owners, but there's a lot of good projects down at that level as well, isn't there? When you talk about Salford, they were in that league not long ago. The likes of Wrexham, the likes of Stockport are another one. Like there's a lot of clubs down there where there's good opportunities that you never know where they're going to be in a few years' time. So it's if opportunities are coming up, not only is the blank canvas, but you just don't know where they're going to go over the next few years, do you either?
Yeah.
So no, it's a great point on that. And then I was going to touch on some of the changes, because you talked about before getting into the club, them doing well, sitting 5th in the league, not wanting to change too much initially. But now you've had more time at the club, you've gone through the pre-season. What about some changes that you have put in place that, or additions or whatever it is, that you feel have been most impactful?
Honestly, it was just really basic things. Like the players weren't wearing GPS during the week. They had the GPS there, but they were only wearing on match days, which I thought was a bit pointless, really, because that was nothing really, you know, it's just telling you how much is running the match. There's no sort of, you don't learn anything about the load they're doing or anything like that. So I joined, and there was no previous GPS data, so I had no idea what the lads could do. So I kind of had to, and some of them were at first were a bit reluctant to wearing the GPS during the week, because they haven't done it for 7 months, sort of thing, during the week. And I'd come in and say, "Oh, lads, we're going to be wearing GPS," and fucking hell, like they were forgetting the vests on purpose, and they go, "Oh, I forgot my vest today, sorry." So I had to just be a bit stern with that and say, "Look, you've got to this is the thing we're going to have to start doing now." So something as simple as that. Another thing was like the post-match nutrition. There was nothing. It was just like a chicken wrap. That was it. There was no sort of like protein recovery shakes or anything like that. I mean, that's something I've like. It's just dead basic stuff, really. Nothing that's going to like reinvent the wheel or anything like that. You know, sort of injury prevention programs, or gym programs. I mean, we've just had a new head of performance join us 3 weeks ago, Kevin Mulholland from Southampton and Ireland. So he's been like unreal with the amount of things that he's brought to the table. All these different injury prevention programs and everything that we slowly started changing since last season.
Yeah, brilliant. And then what about future additions or future changes to the program? Like, where does your head go when you're looking at like the next, like throughout the season, or maybe even into next season? What are some things when you're like, right, well, my non-negotiables are sort of in place at the moment, but for us to take the step to the next level in terms of the sports science S&C support, this is what we need to do?
Yeah, I've had a lot of back and forth with Adam Virgil, you know, the sports science with I forgot what he's called, all the GPS, the Excel stuff. So we're hoping to work with him a lot over the next few months and set up sort of like a really good like athlete monitoring system. So that'll benefit us, I think. We're in the process of sort of kind of trying to build a new gym within the stadium. We haven't got loads of space yet because I think that a new training ground, obviously at the minute, we're just based at the stadium. So in the process of building like a new kind of gym there. And we've also want to a bit individualise the gym programs. It's just been me on my own since March. It's been tough trying to individualise the programs because if I do a gym session, I've just got 25 lads all in the big gym, and it's tough to try and get round and do their own little bits. So now we've got a few more people on board. We're just trying to individualise them and create a more bespoke program for each individual player based on all sorts of different things. Yeah, and I think we've got to improve the nutrition. We've got a new chef. We got a new chef in a few weeks ago, and he's been brilliant, bringing his own little twist to things. So just constantly improving, never sort of standing still, just trying to make things better all the time, really.
You said before a lot of the stuff that you put in place are basic, but the basics are the important stuff, aren't they? When you mentioned about non-negotiables before, I'm sure these are what you were referring to, and tell me if there's anything else. But this is the important stuff that you need in place, isn't it? The likes of collecting GPS, the likes of the nutrition support and getting the chef in and extra pairs of hands, which is what a lot of people talk about a lot of the time, is that don't necessarily want too much fancy equipment or anything like that, but a few extra pairs of hands would go a long way.
Yeah, honestly, like this pre-season, because we didn't have a physio in place till about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we had the youth team physio, but she only covered like training, so any sort of rehab from like getting injured to the next day, that was down to me on pre-season. And I'm not qualified to do that. I don't have like all these physio and rehab degrees. And I mean, I tried my best, and I was like, player got injured. I was getting home, Googling the injury, and just like that basic stuff, but I had no idea. But I've learned loads from that in pre-season, dealing with players at the very first stage of rehab to like, working through that. But yeah, that human resources is the main thing. Having an extra pair of hands, 2 pair of hands, it really makes your life a hell of a lot easier.
And from a player's perspective as well, obviously, without actually speaking to them, what would you say if we questioned them as a whole, as a squad, on where you think Owen's had the greatest impact, or what sort of things you feel like he's put in place that have benefited your game the most? Where do you think they'd go with that?
I like to think that I'm a bit more, I like to get round, something that Jake Simpson touched on as well in his podcast I listen to, just getting round to the lads and asking them how they are. I like to make sure before we start training, like I've managed to do it nearly every day now, just asking each lad, like speaking to them, are you all right? Not like a big 10-minute conversation, just a little conversation, just asking how they are. That the softer side of it rather than the hard sports line, just literally asking how they are and speaking to them. That's quite important to me. And I'd like to say, I like to think that they think that as well. I think they think that Owen is one who gets around and speaks to all the lads and like just in the change room, speaking to lads, asking how they are at home, how the family are, all that sort of stuff. But I think maybe the nutrition side of it, I think has vastly improved over the last few weeks. That's a big one. All the lads are coming up saying, like even the food at hotels, for example, because the food at hotels last season was like, so when we go away, it was just like the menu was just crap, to be honest. So I had like a big overhaul on that. And the lads are coming up and saying, like that was like miles better, and and some of it isn't down to me. Like it's like the physio did it or the chef did it, but I'll still take credit for it. I'll say, it's all right. But no, it's just little bits like that, to be honest. Like the nutrition side, I think, gone on quite far.
Yeah, and it's an obvious one for them to notice the difference as well, isn't it? When you've got some nice food and stuff after, like you're going to notice that compared to a crappy hotel meal.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant, mate. And then what about any other non-negotiables? You spoke about non-negotiables before, and it was something that you had in mind when you first went into the club, but you didn't want to put them in place straight away, but you knew the sort of things you wanted to implement. I know we've touched on probably a fair few already. Was there anything else that you sort of thought from taking that step back, looking at what they were currently doing? Right, I can make an impact here, and here, and they fit in with my non-negotiables.
Yeah, like I say, just basic stuff, like injury prevention stuff. So just getting them hitting above 90% max speed for hamstring injuries every week. That's something they didn't do last season. I remember the first one I did. I mean, I made sure it was when we had a Saturday game, not because there's quite a few midweek games. So I did it on it was Tuesday, I think I did it, or a Wednesday. I can't remember. It might have been a Wednesday. I was going to do a max speed effort now, and I explained it, and they were like why are we doing this? Like, why am I doing a max speed effort? Like, when I explained it and kind of understood it, then that we was going to be doing it every week. I mean, I kind of bought into it a lot more. And other things, just like simple, like Nordics, Copenhagen, bits like that. Like, quite a few of the lads had never done a Copenhagen before.
Yeah.
Some of the younger lads who've come through the academy, and they were like, what's a Copenhagen? And I wrote it on the board once, like Nordics, Copenhagens, and they were like, Copenhagen, what are you on about? And like, Nordic, some of them I'd never done Nordic before. I was saying I was holding his ankles, and they were like holding the ankles like that. I was like, hold it like that. Yeah, just dead basic, simple bits really. Just trying to keep it simple.
No, class. I think it's really good for people to hear about some of the stuff you put in play already, and it's impressive, mate, as well, because being, like I said, being such a young age and being in your first full-time role at a first team club, it sounds like you've made a lot of changes already, and then with the extra pairs of hands and everything you've got planned, it'll be exciting to see where things go. And the other thing, obviously, I know I've joked again, the owners at the club now, it's got to be exciting at the club to think about where the club go and the money they're going to put behind it.
Yeah, like they've been brilliant. Like we just got a brand new GPS system in place. You know, the new catapult system, which wasn't there last season. So that already made our life a hell of a lot easier and improved the data that we're able to give to the manager. All the nutrition wouldn't have been able to happen without that sort of backing. So already just from the little day-to-day stuff you've seen a big difference, and hope in the long term we're going to see maybe like better training facilities, maybe our own gym, and little bits like that, which should just help us. Because at the minute we're in an external gym, which is okay. It's a good gym, but you're having to go do doggies from the stadium to the gym to there, and it's just a bit of a nightmare. So
yeah,
if we can get our own stuff built, that's for the long term. You mentioned before the long term plans to get that gym, in our little base.
Brilliant. We'll have to have another catch up when all that's in place, mate, and go through the planning of the gym and all that sort of stuff. But we'll move it on to some of the quick fire stuff that we finished the podcast with. And I know you've mentioned a fair few people already, but I always ask about the biggest influences on your career so far. So is there any standout names for you?
I'd say, as mentioned before, Adam Daniels at St. Helens, because he just kind of gave me the kick up the arse that I needed. Like I say, I was at Saints just not really being proactive, and we had like an appraisal sort of thing, and he sat me down, and I honestly thought he was going to tell me how good I've been the last 2 weeks, and he was like, so we've not been that impressed with you, and I was just kind of like, you're talking to me? Like, what do you mean? Like, I've been really good this week, and he was like, no, like you've not been proactive, and I was like, shit, like you're right, I've been like pretty poor this last few weeks, and he kind of said it. That kind of gave me the kick up the arse. I don't think I'd be where I am now if he didn't say that. I would have kind of just been chugging along, doing that same, just like minimum effort sort of thing. So yeah, that's one of the main ones, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's something that James Malone brought up, is that honesty, and because we were talking about having mentors, and I suppose that's essentially what you're referring to. But that honesty is key, isn't it? Because if they did turn around at that point and go, "Oh, you've done great, Owen," then you don't really take much from that. But with that honesty, you can sort of critique what you've done, and it sounds like you just kicked on from there. Anyone else?
I think my supervisors at uni, Craig Twist and Jamie Hyton, they were brilliant for me. They're the ones who got me the role that helped me get me the one at Stockport, got me the one at Saints, just messaged me saying, I've got you this role at Saints, I don't want to go into rugby league, like I play football, I don't really do rugby. And they'll do it, you'll benefit from it, trust me, do it, you'll learn loads. I'll do it for a week, and then I'll say, I don't want to do it anymore. I did it, and it was like brilliant. So without them, I wouldn't have learned all the different things. Wouldn't have met Adam, who helped me get even better. So I think
brilliant. And then next one, what would you say your biggest strength is as a practitioner?
I touched on it before. I'd just say sort of either adapting to situations I'm thrown in, because I just think like I've been thrown in the deep end quite a lot, and it's just kind of dealing with that sort of pressure. I think I'm better at that than I used to be anyway. And I think acknowledging what I mentioned before, acknowledging when you're wrong and not being stubborn with it. Just realizing that you're wrong and holding your hands up and self-reflecting. And after every session, I go back to my office and I'll redo it in my head. And I did the warm today, like even some little things like that sounds dead stupid, but like I was stood there when I said what I said. Could I have been stood somewhere else? The lads could have heard it better, and just dead boring stuff like that. I always do that. Like maybe one time today, for example, I shouted an instruction in a warm-up and that side of the line didn't hear it, but this side is like, I should have been stood there. And just little things like that, because obviously I would say I'm still quite young, so I'm still learning every day. So having that ability to just realise you're wrong, or maybe not wrong, but how you can get better.
I think the ability is the fact that you can reflect on that, because that will go over a lot of people's heads, and they probably wouldn't. All those little things that you're mentioning there would probably be missed by a lot of people, and maybe only dealt with in a few years' time. And I think the fact that you can reflect on it, notice it, make that mental note, and probably change it in the future, I think that's a really key skill, and something that everyone should do, isn't it? When they're running sessions, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's within a group, we should all be pretty critical in a way, but to try and come out with a positive outcome.
Self-reflective,
yeah, definitely. And then just finally, mate, where would you say you do your CPD now? So in terms of professional development, courses, articles, like people that you might have conversations with, podcasts, like where do you do your learning now?
Yeah, I do a lot on Rob Pacey's new stuff, Sportsmith, constantly scrolling through there, looking at that. A lot of it, to be honest, I look a lot on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I can just be scrolling stuff now and just save that. I'll add it to my notes. Like my notes page on my iPhone is like ridiculous, like 500 notes. It's just like, do this next time we're at the gym, do this in the next warm-up. It's just little bits like that on LinkedIn. Like you see different people like a different drill in a warm-up or a different training drill or something in the gym, and I'm just constantly like saving that, noting that, liking that, like saving it. I do a lot of that. Obviously, the podcast, your podcast has been great. I've learned a lot from there. The one sticks out of my head when I was at Salford, the Jack Dowling one, he spoke about the movement matrix, I think.
Yeah.
Movement competency, that was one of the big ones. Like, I learned loads from that and took that and moved that to what I was doing at Salford. That was really good. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to get a few workshops at UKSCA booked in as well. I'm just struggling to find the time with working on a Saturday and a lot of them on weekends. But yeah, I think articles as well. I'm constantly looking at Kev, who's just come in, the new physio head of performance. He's really big on research, and he wants to get a few articles published in the next few years. So I'm really looking forward to that, getting like injury availability, injury surveillance data published, which I'll be a big part of. I'm looking forward to doing stuff like that. Brilliant,
mate. No, it sounds absolutely class. It sounds like you've made a real impact at Wrexham already, which is great to see. And I know you make it sound like it was quite a smooth transition going from club to club and ending up at the job at Wrexham, but I know there's been some hard work that's gone behind it as well. So keep up the good work, mate. But if anyone's got questions, they want to reach out and just start a conversation with yourself, where's the best place?
On Twitter, probably, yeah. Twitter.
And I'm right saying Owen Jackson 5498, is that right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Perfect, mate. Well, if anyone's got anything, I encourage you to reach out, because I know you're keen to get conversations going with other coaches as well. So that's brilliant. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Owen. It's great to finally have a proper chat, and we'll definitely stay in touch, mate.
Yeah. Hoping to come to quite a few more of the networking events. That one at Rotherham, not on my first one, so they're really, really good. I definitely encourage people to go to that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to a few more for them ticked off this year.
Brilliant. Well, all the best for the rest of the season. Cheers, Owen.
Top man. Cheers.